ருசிக பரலோக சுவை இன்ப இயேசுவே என் வாழ்வின் திவ்ய அமிர்தமே இன்னும் இன்னும் மீண்டும் என்று கெஞ்சுதே உள்ளமே உன் நினைவால் என் இதயம் ஏங்குதே வல்லாய்.
A very good evening to all of you. We all welcome the viewers and subscribers of Milky TV and especially viewers of our special book review program called Pen, Mic and Swords. So today is our 26th episode. So far we have completed book reviews of almost 25 books. So I could say that it is quarter century. So today is our 26th episode with 26 new book, and the presenter we all know him. So today the book is going to be presented by Joseph Yesudian. So I was really amazed at how God works, because Joseph is going to present a book about the biblical Joseph, a special youth whom the Bible has acknowledged as one who had stood for God, who stood for His holiness, who is an exemplary example for all the youth throughout the generation. So this book is a very different book. I think this book will teach us how we can apply in our life whatever experiences Joseph had in our life. So I wouldn't like to take the limelight. So without much delay, I would like to say a few words about Joseph Yesudian and go into the and give the podium to him so that he can make the presentation. Joseph is basically from Mumbai. He was born in strict Pentecostal ministerial family, and he is a member of New Jerusalem Church from the time he was born. So I know him personally very well. His father has been a pastor in our church. I could say for more than, I think, 30 years. How many years, Joseph, dad's ministry?
Yeah, it's more than 32 years.
Okay, yes, more than 32 years of ministry. So Joseph has a sibling and is married, and he has a cute kid. So he has finished his engineering studies from Mumbai University, and has also finished his MBA from Symbiosis University, and he has worked in many companies. He has worked in companies like TCS, Amazon, Udan, and presently he is working as a planning manager in Meesho. And he's also interested more into the ministry among the youth, and is a very good in instrument playing, and he wanted to do great things for God according to the call which God has called him. So thank you, Joseph. In spite of your busy schedule, you took the time to read this book and do this review for us. So this is your time. Please do your presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jemima, for that wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. I am so honored to be a part of this 26th book review. I thank God for giving me this opportunity and giving me the grace to identify which book I should speak on. And it was been quite a struggle, wherein like was traveling with work and so many other things, and then trying to find a schedule of when I will be able to read a book and then present it. As every time, I would like to recognize and say special thanks to Jemima as well for always pushing me ahead in presenting, and then in also choosing a book, and then making sure that I be a part of it, even though I run through different schedules. So thank you, Jemima, for that encouragement, and I thank God for giving me this opportunity for presenting this book. When I was being told which book to pick up, I was like skimming through a lot of books. I was skimming through a lot of topics, but was not able to but I was not sure which one to pick up. But when this book came up, so I felt that I need to go and then read this book and then present it. Even I didn't read the topic, even though it resembles even my name is similar to that book, but something I don't know. But later, when I read through the book, I realized, okay, fine, this book is essential for me as well, because it has certain teachings for me. So I believe God is leading me, or like the Holy Spirit has led well in choosing this book and in presenting this book. So yeah, the book's name is the Joseph Calling, and the entire title is The Joseph Calling: 6 Stages to Discover, Navigate, and Fulfill Your Purpose. So this book was primarily written by um, Os Hillman. So O.S. Hillman. I think he has his full name, but I don't remember his full name. Its full name is a bigger name, but it is O.S. Hillman. So he's a great author. When I talk about the author, so he's a great author. He's right now internationally recognized speaker. On a subject of faith at work. And then apart from that, he is also heading a couple of other ministries as well. One is he's executive director of Marketplace Leader Ministry, and second one is he's also founder and director of International Coalition of Workplace Ministries. And he has become a very much influential person for now, where he is also authored over, I think, 11 books he has written. He has over uh, 1,60,000 subscriber worldwide, and his most I mean, like his daily reads are like which is called as TGIF, that today God is first. I think that is famous, wherein like people use it, wherein like he uses that medium to speak to people, or write things to people. So yeah, so he's a great author. And then the best part is like, when the author has written this book, the author himself has gone through that particular process, has gone through that adversities and the problems, and then he has identified that he had a Joseph calling in his life. That's what he call it as a calling. He specifically, he has named it as a Joseph calling, wherein he has identified that there are certain stages of the life where he has gone through, and then he felt that this is where I have also gone through, and probably this is where God is leading me, and then he has seen those results in his life. So that's the best part. And then he has seen how God's hand moved him mightily. So along with his personal examples, the author has used a lot amount of examples. If I literally count, it will be not less than 30 to 40 different people he has quoted here in the scriptures. Many of them are live examples. The people who have lived in this world, and then many of them are obviously many of them are biblical, these scriptural examples, and other ones are the people who have lived during his time. So he has picked up all those examples, and the best part was like, when the author had written this book, there were many hundreds and hundreds, I would say rather thousands of people who started contacting him because they could relate through that book, and then who could draw some things for their life from this book. And that's how he could use some of their examples in this book as well, because during the initial stages before writing the book, he could connect to the people because of the problem that he was going through, because of the calling on his life that he was going through, and he was also part of other organizations as well. So I said, so while mentoring those people, he could listen to those people. Those people came to him, and then that's how the author included those people as well in this book. Yeah. So yeah, I would before I would go with the book review. So like, I would also like to recognize, I mean, like, we have Joseph sir and then Raja sir among us. So yeah, thank you for joining. It's indeed a pleasure, and it's indeed an honor to present before you. I hope I'll be able to do justice to this book. And the best part of this book is like, the book says the Joseph calling, and one Joseph is presenting it, and another Joseph is reviewing it. So, so yeah. So thank you, Joseph sir, for joining.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to listen from you, Joseph. Yes.
Yeah. So yeah. So I just spoke about the author, sir. I would go to what the book says. So the book is broadly categorized into three different sections. One is discovering the Joseph calling. Next one is navigating through the 6 stages of your purpose, and then fulfilling the God's call in your life. So that's how the entire book is divided. And this book is definitely been given the Joseph calling, because I said this calling is given because the author has seen the phase that he has gone through. So that's the reason specifically, and then he can very clearly relate with the biblical character Joseph in the Bible. So that's the reason you see this book. And then this book talks about very specifically about the practical things that the author went through, how he was at a very good position, and then how things broke suddenly. I mean, his marriage was broken. Obviously, marriage was not broken suddenly. There were problems going on, and apart from that, he had he was thrown out of his job. He had losses in his businesses, and there's so many things came together. While I was reading through the book, I was reminded of how probably Job would also went through when we read the scriptures. Because obviously, when we read through scriptures, it becomes very difficult for us to imagine or put ourselves into that place and think what would have been our situation if we would have gone through. So, similar kind of situation the author has also gone through, wherein it was very difficult for him during those times, wherein he was put into a loneliness situation. He was put into certain, he was rejected by so many people, and then it was during those times wherein the author, O.S. Hillman, he could connect with some of the leaders, wherein he could understand his calling, of what his calling was and what God is trying to do through him. And then there was a stage of around 7 years wherein God had actually prepared him for his ministry. I think after the completion of the 7 years is what his ministry started. He could realize on the purpose of why of why he's called onto this earth and what is his purpose and what God wants to do through him. So when we talk about the section 1, discovering the Joseph calling, the author very specifically says, see, every one of us has a general calling. The very generic calling for all of us is like we have been saved and then we preach gospel, because that's a calling which is placed on everyone. We go and we preach gospel, we talk about Christ, and then we ensure that the thing that we receive from the Christ, also others also receive a part of it. And then the author says there is a specific calling as well, because every person God has entrusted with abilities, with talents, with anointings, with gifts in each and every person. So every person, if you will individually see, God has a very specific calling for each and every person. And then the author is very good in actually uh, placing or probably putting forward that argument, saying why it is important to understand calling. Because many times it happens that we run through our life, we just go with the flow without understanding, without sitting back and thinking of what is happening in the life, why this is happening, what is the purpose of me into this earth, why God has called me, what is my specific call. And I think it would be better if you understand our purpose, and if you identify our calling, it would be easy for us, or probably it would help us to focus on our callings specifically and run towards that more faithfully, versus going back and forth and then going through different adjustments and going through different problems. So that's where the author very specifically says why it is important, and then discovering your purpose is very important. And then he asks the question, do you know why God has made you? And then how then he says ki how you should go and then identify whether how what is your calling. So he says ki how did he analyze himself, what are the things that he did throughout the years, what is he good at, what is he not good at, how could he help people, what kind of people that God is bringing to him, so what is the ability that God has placed inside him. That's how he eventually started, and then try to go through his life. And then when this problem happened, that's the point of time wherein like he had a leader who came and then say that you have a Joseph calling in your life, because you are the problem that you're going through. You will come out victoriously, and then God is going to actually even will go and integrate you into the bigger plan. So that's how thing proceeded. And then the author gave, at the start of the book I said the author gave many live examples of many people who has gone through similar situations as in case of him. Not every time marital problems or something. There are problems wherein they have lost their job, they have lost their near ones and dear ones. Even the author has taken examples from the history as well, wherein like people have gone through slavery, have lost their parents, have lost everything, they're stranded, and then amidst of that, how did they discover the calling of God in their life? How did they actually pick up what is the greater purpose for which they have been called? And then from that point of time, how God established them and then took them and then made them as an examples for others. Wherein the only thing that was coming out of the only theme that I can see from the examples that he has given us, like when the examples, when the people go through those kind of adversary situations and the problems, and when they come out of it, and when Christ establishes them, that's when they become an example wherein like people start seeing Christ inside these people, and then they have started identifying the calling of Christ in their life. So that's how these people have created impact. Even the author, before that, till that point of time, it was fine, but the moment when the author came out, Then he become an influential person. He could help so many lives around the world. He could turn people so many lives. He became an author. He had never dreamt of that he will write a book. He has written a book. He has written so many um, uh, uh, the articles, which is called as TGF Today God is First, and then he has around 1,60,000 subscribers across the world. So that's pretty much a very great impact that God has created through such a soul who was broken during a point of time. So, and then one more thing is called, there is the book also has that one more section called as the journey of a Josephine, wherein like it very clearly shows an example of a woman who has gone through different problems and trials, and then who at a point of time was at a good position, and who at a point of time lost everything, um, even a job during the recession, and everything like was stopped. She lost her house and everything, and then how from that point of time God nurtured her. I mean, she had to depend on God, and then after, I think in her life also, it was after 7 years point of time she came up, and then God made sure keep things written back to her, and then the best part was like she said, keep I could now identify what my calling is, because I never knew what my calling was. Now I know what is the purpose of mine inside Christ. So that is one thing. So if you go to the second section is navigating the 6 stages of your purpose. So it's like the author has broken that entire section into 6 stages, wherein he says the first stage is the recruitment. I think I don't have to go through the story of Joseph here, because I think pretty much every one of us knew the story of Joseph. I will just take these sections and I'll just try to relate, and I'll try to put in forward for what the author actually wants to tell us. The first stage the author calls the first stage as the recruitment stage. Recruitment stage, the author calls it as like God often recruits his servants through a crisis, is what he says. It's like whenever a situation of a crisis comes, or whenever a problem comes, or whenever an issue comes, because the author clearly says that it is only during your deepest point of time, it is only during your crisis time you seek the God most. It is only during those times you hear the God most. Apart from that, it becomes very difficult for one to actually, or becomes one to, or it becomes very difficult for one to stay so much dedicated to God. So the author says there can be two reasons for crisis. One is that one reason can be because of our any problem, that because of our say old habits, or probably because of our sinful nature, because of old habit, probably the ones that the people of God had in Egypt. So because of that also we might end up in a crisis situation, we might end up in a wilderness situation when we might have to go through certain thing. But after that, but God definitely ensures that even though we go through the worst of it, we come out of it victoriously. So that is one thing which the author has said, the reason why one might actually go through this is one reason. Second reason is we might go through a crisis situation depending on our destiny and our calling, because the author says that it might so possible that your destiny and your call is so big that everything in the world wants to fight with you and then wants to pull you away, and then God has to bring you into a particular position wherein like God wants to take you through a path, and then wants to develop your character mainly, and then God wants to take you ahead. So that's where comes the second stage, wherein the second stage is called as character development. Even though so we see this theme in the scriptures as well, wherein we know that when God took people through from out of Egypt through the wilderness to the promised land, the wilderness was mainly a character test for each and every one, to show them whether they actually depended on God, to prove or to self-analyze whether they had actually believed God of the promises, because God had promised them, God has brought them out with such a mighty outstretched arm. But the very thing is like they have seen an outstretched arm of God recently, but right now they are not even able to find the water. They can only see dry patches around, they can only see wilderness around, they can only see problems and problems in their life. So are they able to stick to God and then understand why God has brought them here, and then die to self, is what the author says. It is only during these valleys, or only during these difficult times, God ensures that your character is developed. You die to yourself, you try to you become completely dependent on God for each and everything. that's where you come very much closer to God, and God also draws near to you, and that's where you have breakthroughs with Christ. That's how you reach a particular relationship, or you get into a particular relationship with Christ. That all those things are defined only during the times of crisis, or only when a person walks through wilderness, because that's how, because Bible has a lot of examples. We see Moses going through, when he was in 40 years, he was in wilderness, before going to Egypt. I call it as a wilderness because those 40 years, I think he didn't hear the voice of God, and then he did not had. I mean, he was with his father-in-law, and that was his period wherein like God had to use him to build his character. And then we see Joseph similar to those situations wherein like he was betrayed by his own brothers, backstabbed by his co-workers, and then beaten by his family members and everything. And during those times wherein God had used him, made him sure how how he was dependent on God. We can see similar examples across. Even we see even when God chose his disciples and all, how they, even when they were not, how each and every disciple, they had to go through different trials and tribulations when they had to preach Christ, when God had to bring them out. And so I think during those situations, during those wilderness, during those valley situation, is uh, when the God develops the character. This is a beautiful example of David as well, wherein he was anointed as a king, but for the next 13 years he was running for his life. Even though he was anointed as a king, he has never sat on the throne. He was continuously being attacked. And then so during those time, like God had built him, God had started giving victories into his hand. God made sure that he was with him. That's the point of time he became completely dependent on God, because if he was not dependent on God, his life was at stake. And then at a particular point, then the time came, then God rose him up to, made him that God ensured that he will rise him up to, he will make sure that David will rise him, we will rise up to the power. So that's one beautiful theme that came out of it. And the next one is isolation. He says the stage 3 author calls it as an isolation. Isolation is something where he says there will be a situation wherein you will be completely isolated from the crowd. You don't know what you have to do. And then he says this isolation stage is a dangerous stage as well, because sometimes what happens that when people don't take care of themselves properly, they might end up in uh, wrong connections. They might end up leaving God. They might end up going into a stage and saying, there is no God, what is happening in my life? I don't know whether God is there or not. They might go into a negative side as well. So isolation is a phase wherein like it becomes difficult for a person, even though that person might be going out and coming in, but inside the person is so much isolated, person doesn't have anything. And then the author also uses certain terms called as the black hole, because there is a point of time in his life wherein like there was completely blank. No, don't He didn't knew what to do, what he has to do, because he has lost everything. No light at the end of the tunnel. um, so it became very difficult. He's like, during those situations, how God actually helped him, how those situations helped him draw closer to God, is what has author mentioned on. And then the next one is cross. He says every leader must experience the cross through betrayal, because he says when we walk through the point of time of life, everyone at any point of time will face betrayal through their co-members, through their family members, through their church members, or anyone, or at their workplace. So the author says that it becomes very important that when you go through the stage of betrayal is very important. How do you forgive them? How do you um, exhibit the value of Christ during those times? And hence the cross is essential. And then the book also says it is essential for you to lift the cross. In case if you don't lift the cross, the cross can also kill you. So it is very important for one to identify and then come out of it. Next one is problem solving. Is like once when he says once when God brings you out of this, then that can be a situation wherein like you will be called to solve a problem, because you are a part of a greater God's plan. So any problem that you might be solving in now, Joseph, we know what problem he solved. He solved that problem for that entire nation during that point of time, which was supposed to uh, go into a famine situation, and to preserve people of God, or else like if Joseph wouldn't have risen, we don't know like what would have happened for the situation on the earth. So it was very important that he understood his problem and then he solved it, and then God has given that person, whomever God calls, God will give them that grace enough to solve their problems. So that is one thing. The last thing is the last stage is the networks. He's like God works through unified networks through build his kingdom. He's like once when you identify your purpose, you identify your calling, then he's like God will always work through unified networks to build his kingdom. He's like you alone cannot do everything. He's like God will ensure that he will connect to you right people. Now that can be your business. That should not be every time a ministry or a ministerial thing or a church thing, but he is like it can be even your work. It can be even the place that you're working at, or the people that you're influencing around, or your neighbors, or anyone around. So God definitely uses. So a person goes through these stages. What the author said. So this all the 6 stages which I said, the author has gone through those stages, and then last section 3 mainly talks about Jacob, how from a family schemer he become a national patriarch, how Moses, he was an orphan, from there he become a world changer. Paul, from a radical religious terrorist, he has converted, or God changed him to a disciple of Christ. And then these are the things that are I've mentioned in section 3. Section 3, probably I don't want to go into much of the detail. The only crux that I want to speak and then close is the author specifically says that even Christ himself has gone through these kind of situations. He is a forerunner. He has gone through this. And when every person goes through different stages, it is very essential for everyone, or the one that who is going through, to understand and acknowledge what they're going through. uh, and the most important theme is like understanding the greater purpose of God. And then God is so faithful enough that no matter how bad the situation is, how worse one has gone into, God can eventually bring something beautiful out of it. So that is what the author wanted to say. One last thing which I wanted to tell is, while I was reading through book, I also felt that not necessary that every time a person has to go through such a big problem. Now that can be problems at different levels. Problem that can be mental problems as well, that can be physical problem as well, that can be problem with the family, that can be problem with the workplace, surrounding environment, finance. It can be any area of our life wherein like we might be struggling through. But there is definitely a phase wherein like God will allow us to walk through, uh, that might look to us as a wilderness, but during those difficult moments, God will use those opportunities to build our character, to ensure that we die to our old self, we die to ourselves, and we get transformed into the image of Christ. And then the most important thing that happens during those periods is like we start developing a relationship with Christ. If our relationship with Christ is not good, or if it's futile, or if it's just an outwardly, it will very clearly come out when we go through, when we would be going through this process. We'll be clearly come to know to what extent we actually know Christ during when we go through such process. So that's how I want to end this book. Whenever I was reading through book, I could relate my life as well. I could relate the things, the stages of life that I was also going through, or I'm going through. And then this books brings a lot of hope of, it's like if God can do and wonder miracles in so many people's life, um, uh, it's much more, God can definitely help us. And then for everything that the author has spoken of, author has clearly used scriptural verses, has backed up with scripture, uh, given the scriptural examples as well as the live examples of the people that he has met during those times. So yeah, thanks, Jamaica, for giving this opportunity. I think I've spoken more. I should have completed 20 minutes, but it has gone 35 minutes. So yeah, thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you, Joseph. Thank you so much. So, in a very short period of time, you were able to read this book, and you gave a very good review. You ensured that the entire contents of the book should not come out, but at the same time, what the book wants to convey to the readers, why this book is important and why it is applicable to your life. You gave a very nice presentation. And while you are giving your presentation, as you said, this book is something which makes us to think back about our life, whatever stages we have been going through, and how God is working in us and where God will take us to. While you're doing the review, my mind was I was going back and thinking about my own life. And in each of the stages, we feel that yes, I have gone through this. God has helped me in this. I come out of it. So God will definitely take me and make me to do His will. So ultimately, that is what each and every saved believer wishes. Joseph's biblical Joseph's life is really a very classical example. That he was a very young chap. A young chap who had at a very tender age, he was betrayed by his own siblings. But yet he did not leave his faith. He still trusted the living God. He was in Egypt, where there was no parents, where there was no kind of influence of Jewish influence was there, but yet he retained his integrity, he retained his purity, and that is why God exalts him and takes him to a higher position. We know the biblical event, whatever was happened in Joseph's life, but the author has ensured that we understand it better, and dividing it into the 6 stages, he has brought it out very beautifully. We should really thank the author. This book is I just checked. It is available in Amazon. I think it's almost some 450 rupees only. And even I have the free PDF. So viewers, you should definitely go for this book after this presentation. I'll be posting this book in the group so that the group members would be benefited. So today we have two panelists who would like to give their feedback regarding Joseph's presentation and their personal perspective and view about this book. So first of all, I would like to call Raja sir to give his opinion. Raja sir, please.
Thank you, sister, for giving me the chance to give feedback from my side. First, I thank Brother Joseph Yesudian for sharing a wonderful thought on the topic Joseph College. So many Joseph are there. Here also you can see two brothers by the same name. But this particular name, Joseph, made some remarkable things, not only in scripture, but also the other side also. So when I was listening to you, you made a attempt how he has made his plan for the benefit of him, as well as what God has done for him to fulfill the purpose mainly. So he has differentiated into three different sides, like Joseph calling and navigating and fulfilling God's promise. This is a usual thing, what all of us know. But according to the author, you have made some specification for good understanding, better understanding for for all of us, not only those who are listening, but for the others also, those who want to know much about this. So this book, especially the author, he speaks how he was uh, broken-hearted like this, broken-hearted due to some reasons. Maybe in his life also, he has faced some problem. In his life, in workplace also, he faced many problems. That's what the author was telling. Then he also specifically mentioned the God's calling to Joseph. That's also there. God's calling. Not only for Joseph, for everybody in today's life. When anybody goes under any trouble, any issues, sure, we depend on God. Sometimes, even though if we are not depending on God, God's response will be there. That's very much true in today's sense. So, author has, this book author was really specifically says how his ministry have been given and what are the purposes the author was given, what are the purposes God is given to the Joseph. And also, he says, our author says, this is not an ordinary calling, it's a specific calling, according to fulfill the needs, fulfill the purpose. Specific calling he has been mentioned. That's also one good thing here be noted. And same time, again, God is calling and doing things for some purpose. That purpose we doesn't know. That purpose we doesn't know. But He knows how to make it, how to bring it in a positive way for good understanding, better understanding, and to lead a normal life without any disturbance, without any hindrance. So God's calling is there with some purpose only. Otherwise, it's not. Same time, he also quoted how the author has been analyzed his calling. Okay. Also, you quote how the author has given so many examples are given on your journey of Joseph, and many other examples also you have shared from the first point of view, that is on Joseph calling. And similarly, for the second thing, you have made some recruitment process that's very much important in today's life. It's a practical thing. If you see, it's a must for everything. So those days also, according to the author, he has made a process of recommending servants. So that's what he has mentioned. So, at the time of any crisis, you also made at the time of any crisis, we have deep relationship with God. That's the that's a must. Okay, not only author specifically mentioned here, but in reality also we can say for any problem if you face, we'll build close relationship with God. That is also there. So what you quoted is very much right part from the author side, and also you quoted how God helped at the time of any problem face. Okay, problem in the sense, so many problems are there. Official problem, personal problem. Okay, and today we see in practical life, problem comes on all the sides. Okay, but we should be very much careful. We should depend on God. There is some purpose. God is calling us to fulfill our needs so that we'll be satisfied. So that we'll be satisfied according to the wishes of the God. So finally, he also says the author has given many different stages. One thing you quote I like is the understanding greater purpose of God. That is very much needed. Because in today's life, if you see practically, many people are not that much, very much close to God, not understanding the God, what God is giving or God is sharing to us. So people are losing. That's what I can say from my side. But here he specifically says understanding greater purpose of God is also very much important. According to the author, he says, and before ending, he says, God will allow us to walk through even any condition. Yeah, that's true. We all are sailing the same side only. Okay, but God has one particular purpose for the benefit of all of us, including the Joseph, what I mentioned according to the author. So this book's given lots of insight, and also to think more about how God fulfilled the needs of one particular person, as we see in the book. So it's a reality also. We have to think God will fulfill all our needs according to His own purpose. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Yes, sir, as sir said, really this book makes us to think practically. It still applies to us, and I think throughout generation, this book would be applied to everyone, so that everyone can relate to the book. So as sir also told, and Joseph also told, that God has a general calling for every saved believer and a specific calling, and I truly believe that in that specific calling also there are two kind of thing. One specific calling is for our ministry, and another specific calling is for our vocational purpose. Even when we select a job or whatever career we are in, God has a special calling for that. Only in that we can shine. So that is truly very important. And as Joseph said, that Israelites, they were in the wilderness. They were supposed to reach Canaan in 40 days, but because of their disobedience and because of their faithlessness, they didn't had enough faith on God. God made them to travel for 40 long years. If we see the book of Exodus, so as you all know that I am doing another Bible study program called Ani Elixir Bible Study Program, and last week only we covered this. We have started the Desert Journey series. In that, what was really for us, we are really flabbergasted. God led these people through great power, through 10 plagues. God delivered them from the slavery and brought them outside. And Moses, Aaron, and Miriam, they are thanking God and they are worshiping God, and an entire chapter has been devoted regarding the way they had praised God. Immediately, within 3 days, the people felt that water was very bitter. They were unable to drink it. They started murmuring and complaining. They forgot all the good things which God has done. Often we human beings are like that. God has done so many wonderful things in our life. He has helped us in so many ways. We never remember that. But if we find one hard day, we start murmuring, is God with me? Is God helping me? What God is doing? So this is something which a Christian, which a saved believer should never do. Whatever God does in our life, it does for our goodness only. So if he brings a crisis in our life, he wants to mold us, shape our character, make us to know the people around us, who they are, who are standing for us, who are against us, and how we can defend ourselves. And at the same time, the biblical verse says that love your enemies, and Joseph did that only. His siblings betrayed him, so when he saw them, he gives them small, I would say, small punishments to make them realize the mistake, and then he shows his love. So this is how our dealing with those who are betraying us, those who are doing bad things to us. Yes, it is quite very difficult when we are going through very hard ways, through betrayal. As Joseph said, sometimes it does happen. A family member must have betrayed, or a friend might have betrayed, and you might find it really difficult to come out of it. Yet we have to show Christ's love, and that's what Christ expects of us. Then only he can equip us, and as Joseph told in his presentation, make us in a position to be a problem solver to many, and make us to be a shepherd or a leader, and as in Joseph case, to feed an entire country and even his own family. So that's how God works. So we have to understand his working, because the thoughts of God is quite different from how we human beings think. We want everything speedily, we want everything to be sorted out quickly, but that's not how God works. It goes in a very slow pace. But yes, through that journey, he also molds us. So thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful feedback. And now we have Joseph sir to give his feedback. So Joseph sir is smiling. So I think he wants to say many interesting things. Sir, please.
Okay. Praise the Lord to everyone. It's a great pleasure and privilege indeed to come back to this 26th episode of the book titled Joseph Calling, the 6 stages to discover, navigate, and fulfill your purpose. The very title, when I've gone through, immediately I was just pounced in the group to say that, yes, I'll be in and I'll be a part of it. The reason behind the title was one thing, very what do you call, attractive, and moreover it has added a meaning to my life also. And the other attraction is that the Joseph Yesudian, who's going to be the presenter of Joseph Calling, why can't this Joseph also be a part of it? Okay, that was the other interesting thing. To add up one more interesting thing is that I'm born in a small family of 7 children. One day I asked my father, Dad, you named me as Joseph. Which Joseph I am? Is it the father of Jesus, or the one who helped Jesus to be buried, or who's the one, or the one who's been thrown in the pit? And then my dad said, like the one who's thrown in the pit. And then I asked him, may I know the reason why you have named it this manner? My father used to work in Western Compton company in Chennai. So he's a very what do you call, sincere and dedicated in his job. He joined in that Western Compton company when he was 18 years old. And people used to go for slogans for what do you call, bonus and incentives and all those stuff, but there won't be any better production. So my father used to say, come on, let's help for the company for the better production, and then automatically when the money flows in, you'll be paid well. So my father was totally to the side of the company, so that has developed an enmity for his brothers who are working in the company. So because of that, since he supported the company and the correspondent and the owner, since he did not support the union, so there was a hatred developed between the company people, especially the employees, with my dad. I was sleeping one Sunday evening, I remember, around 8 to 10 people just barged in. I just woke up with a shock. What's just going to happen now? I literally worried, like, are they going to be physical with my dad? And then my dad was so strong enough, courageous enough to say, yeah, please come in. When he is given a very warm welcome, and that itself has automatically brought their spirit down. And then, why, sir, you're not supporting us and you're supporting the owner and the company? We are fighting for the employees for the better package and better salary and better incentives and bonus. Why you're against of it? See, there's only one man in the company who was just against of union. The entire union comes in, and that gave me a thought, like, what kind of a role my dad was playing in it. So today I wanted to join this just to get some takeaway, not what I'm going to get something from this episode. So I'll tell you, the presenter Joseph Yesudian, I'm so glad, and I have 3 takeaways with me today. I'm not sure like which stage you spoke about. One is the experience of wilderness. Every Christian must undergo the experience of wilderness. And this is the one who trains them and puts them in a better occupation. How Joseph was trained as a good shepherd. It is the wilderness has trained him, molded him, and made him more courageous and sharp also. And later he has been uplifted, as we know well, under the Potipar. He was a steward and a manager to the Potipar's estate. And rather, if we could say, like, for example, he's a world leader practically at that particular time to just rule. Eventually became the second in command over all Egypt. What a great honor and post. So this is the experience of wilderness, which has made him elevated his life in the later part. But when other stage that Joseph was presenting, that is a stage of isolation. What has sparked in my mind is that this isolation is a stage where in which people experience some kind of immaturity, and they lack sensitivity. Whereas his isolation period, wherever he was thrown in the pit or he was put in the prison, all these isolated stage, where what I feel right now is that the sensitivity he developed, he was not lack of sensitivity, he was not lack of maturity. He was considered to be the more wise and wisdom. And he's the one who used to tell the dreams to his brother. Sometimes when I think about it, come on, when you had a dream, come on, sometimes you keep yourself quiet, man. You can't always keep going saying the dream about why he used to say. Sometimes we can't say that why Joseph need to say, and thereby his brothers need to put him in the pit. Better he could have not said that. And even to some extent, even to father, when he shared that dream where everyone will be bowing towards him and who's going to be the leader or ruling. So there, when he shared the dream about what God has shown, that speaks about the dominance over them. That has probably hurted the relationship, but whatever it may be, those relationship has been reconciled and restored back in the palace. And there Joseph was also cried, literally cried. So isolation stage is one of the important stage. After the experience of wilderness, one need to go into period of isolation. That period of isolation is that prepares a person towards a professional position. So this I really loved it. And then finally, God automatically puts the traits in, that is a problem solving. I would tell you as a teacher now, what all these boards which are just working on right now is that 21st century is a century which is fostering children for problem solving, evaluative, creative, critical thinking. These are all the things. But those days itself, Joseph has undergone all these 21st century skill, what the world is talking about, even those times. So, coming to the problem solving stage, is that God already has given a trait and the quality to each and every one. And even during our ministry, especially with Joseph and Sam, we when we involve in, what I could just see is that the power of discernment, sometimes our shrewdness in certain thing when we do it, these are the things God just inbuilds in us and puts in us. And as Joseph was also what do you call developed to the developed the problem solving traits, special traits. And as we just read and follow the footsteps of these characters, definitely God will also enable us to be a problem solver, solution seeker. And that is what my takeaway today from the presenter of Joseph. I'm so glad, and thank you, Joseph, and your presentation towards these stages. Though it was very short and precise, but to the point, and straight away you just allowed me to spark my attention towards these three stages. And definitely in the long run, definitely will also help who are listening to this, will also will inherit the shrewdness and the discernment, and will be developing the sensitivity and maturity in the life of Christianity, so that we can face all the challenges in the spiritual world. Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity given. Thank you, sister, and thank you, Raja brother, for your inputs also. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It's a very, I should say, for Joseph and me, it's a great chance that Joseph sir is with us, because from our very younger age, we know sir. And in Sunday school, he used to teach us music, he used to teach us songs. And what I could say about Joseph sir is a very persistent teacher. Even though children might disturb, some may come, some may not come, but each week we will definitely get a new song from sir. So that was how his teaching would be. So really missing those childhood golden memories, I would say. So thank you, sir. Thank you for
Thank
your
you. Thank you.
great inputs. And you did mention about this isolation period. Yes. When the isolation period comes, as even Joseph also touched that point, we might be in our family, we might be in our church, but yet we feel that we are not connected to everyone, because we might be bombarded with so many problems. But it is the time where we should not get isolated from God. When during this isolation period, when people they get isolated even from other people, and when they get isolated from God, it is the time when Satan will encapture our mind. And at that time only, all kind of psychological disorders, depression, multiple personality disorders, that is the crucial period that Satan is waiting for. So we need to be very careful about our isolation period. And another thing which sir told us, so I thought that I would say it in conclusion, but sir took my thoughts away, that it is about the dreams. In fact, I think some 5 to 6 years back, I written an article about dreams and its interpretation, because as far as Christian and particularly Pentecostal Christian world is concerned, they give a lot of importance to visions and revelations. So what happened was, some 5 to 6 years back, one day I was just switched on the television, and Angel TV, I put Angel TV. So there was this program was being conducted, where a young lady, she had a group of small kids in the sense from 7 to 12-year-old kids. And she was praying for the kids, and she was calling them that God is calling you for a particular vision, that God has anointed you with the prophetic vision. So each one of you will have a revelation. You tell the revelation before the whole world. So as I was watching the program, each kid they were telling something or other. One kid was telling that I saw a vision, I saw heaven, and the lions were roaming on, and there were fruit trees, and they were just even imagining and vivid imagination. And so I feel that this is something which should not be encouraged, because childrens, they don't have the maturity, they will may not be having the spiritual maturity. That is the time where they should concentrate on their studies, they should concentrate on their future life. So if we all the kids, they do tell dreams and visions. So in our home also, if our own kids tell dreams and vision, we can listen, but we should never encourage them. I never encourage with my kid. So I have a 8-year-old kid. Sometimes she comes and tell that I saw this vision, I saw that vision. I'll just listen it. So sometime when I will tell, okay, Papa, it's not that big deal. You have, must have imagined something. So I will just do it. What happens is, if you start giving importance to the kid, will oh, if I tell a vision, my parents are happy, and they will start imagining things, and they will think that I am a great person. God is talking to me, so I am better than other kids. So many parents today are making the mistake. See, in Joseph's case in Bible, is telling the vision. Whatever he saw was right. He didn't told any lie. But how Jacob is handling it, he is telling it. Do you expect me and your mother to come and worship you? In a very subtle way, is scolding him, keep quiet, son. So yeah, he is leading him like that. But at the same time, when his siblings, when they heard all these visions, that is the point, as Joseph sir told, they started feeling jealousy, sibling rivalry, and all kind of hatred starts cropping in the mind, and a huge painful journey starts for Joseph. So we should lead our kids to Christ, but at the same time, and the time to give importance to the vision and revelation, there is a particular age for that. At that time, let them tell it, but please don't encourage. This is my kind advice to all the Christian parents. So some of you might not like what I'm telling, because I'm experiencing it in our church. So in our church there is one believer family, and they have only one kid, and this kid was born at a very later age. So always they are appreciating that child, that that child saw this vision, that child saw that vision. One day they brought the kid to us and told she has got Holy Spirit at home. So I told, oh, very nice, good, but let it be experienced in front of the congregation, then only we will accept. So let us say if it is getting manifested in the congregation. It never got manifested in the congregation. And next week, the same parent are praying that my child should get the Holy Spirit. So sometimes we parents, because of our what I would say, our over love upon our kids, we might spoil them and bring them to a wrong track. So very necessary that spiritually also we should lead them in the right direction. So thank you, Joseph. You did a very wonderful job. So you brought the entire stages, but yet there are many things which you didn't tell. And for that, viewers, you have to definitely read this book and know everything, so that we can also know in what stage we are in our life, and how God is going to lead us. God should be there for us. Let no man be with us. But if God is there, we can do mighty things for him. So then, thank you, sir. Thank you, Raja, sir. Thank you, Joseph, sir. So you both are in teaching profession. I know it's a very busy and tight schedule, but yet you took the time to come today as a panelist, and your feedback is really gave a weightage to a problem. So, dear friends, we did a wonderful book review today. So next week we will come on the same day, same time, with another new book, with another new presenter. Till then, keep reading books. Stay updated in Lord also, and stay updated in our secular world. So do go for secular books also, not only spiritual books, even secular books are also very useful for us. But above all this book, the Bible is the greatest super book which God has given us. Stay tuned to Bible. Thank you. God bless you all. Have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.